Thank you for tuning in to My Positive Perspective episode internet show today, where we feature individuals and groups who share the common goal of improving the local Charleston community. Today's episode is brought to you by Nick Collins from Mount Pleasant Town Council. In today's episode, we have as our guest Mr. Collins. So Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful day, and thank you for joining us. And you're going to be running for a Mount Pleasant Town Council here shortly. So maybe you can start off by telling people how you became interested in being a politician.
Absolutely. I've always been a caring and giving person, and I really care a lot about the town in which I live in. Mount Pleasant is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful city. And it's got so much potential and so much areas that could be really a whole lot better than they are now. And I feel like it's my turn to give and to share my knowledge and my leadership ability to help Mount Pleasant grow in the right direction. Thank you.
And you mentioned, your leadership and you're in the direction of Mount Pleasant. So for people out there who may be kind of confused as what a member of town council's job description is, what would you answer them?
Absolutely. In the Mount Pleasant form of government, it's called a weak mayor, strong council. And what that means is there's 9 of us on that seat on the town council. There's mayor, and we all have to vote on every issue that comes up, and it's got to be the majority of the vote. So it's not like Charleston or North Charleston where the mayor gets all the say-so. It's basically a balance of power. It's the best way to get things done and to represent your colleagues and citizens in Mount Pleasant.
Okay, then of course we're all used to the government having a Democrat or Republican. Is it like that, or is it really just independent?
It's really independent, and with this particular race, it's the top 4 vote getters, and that's the representation that we bring to the council, and we represent the people, and we make their voices known on the direction that they want to go.
Okay, and then one of the things, of course, I grew up in Mount Pleasant, but back in the 80s, and let me tell you, now it looks nothing like when I grew up. It's gotten so much bigger, and the areas are so much better developed and stuff. How does Mount Pleasant, plan, or do they even have the desire to continue growing like that?
Yeah, that seems to be the $1 million question, And I came to Mount Pleasant in the early '80s myself, and we had 20,000 people, and now we're pushing 75. And they say in 5 years we'll be over 100,000 people in Mount Pleasant. Mm-hmm. So to keep the quality of growth and the quality of life together, we have to get the impact and the input from the citizens, and they have to be educated. They have to be communicated by their thoughts, their desires to keep quality of life together. So that's one thing that we are constantly working on, is to improve the city of Mount Pleasant, because it's not a town anymore; it's a big city, and we have to treat it as such.
And you mentioned 20,000 people when I guess me and you were first living here, and then now we're talking 100,000 in a little while. So that's obviously 5 times the growth. So you have 5 times the amount of people. You're gonna have a lot more cars.
Yeah.
Is there a plan to deal with that excess traffic?
There is. You have to look at the overall plan, and you have to get some traffic engineers involved, because you just can't fix one area and expect it to fix the entire area. Say like Coleman Boulevard. You can't fix Coleman Boulevard without addressing Johnny Dodds Boulevard, Highway 41. So you have to look at the total master plan of traffic control, and you have to be able to work with the council members. You have to work with the mayor. You have to work with the engineers, and put together a plan that's going to work for every one of us, and make sure that everyone knows about the plan, knows what's going to come up to the future, get their input, get them educated on the process, and then everybody collaborate together and come up with a plan that works to ease traffic, because that's the main concern out there nowadays.
Yeah, and whenever we have a plan to ease traffic, it's going to require some type of funding. Exactly. Are there any suggested ways of coming up with this funding?
Well, that's the beauty of it is a lot of the roads in Mount Pleasant are South Carolina highways and federal highways. Say, like for instance, Highway 41. It is a hurricane evacuation highway. It's got to have federal and state funds. So our relationship with our council members and our South Carolina Senate and our House of Representatives people is very important because they run where the money is distributed. So without a good relationship with them, we won't get our fair share. And they have to hear from us that we are concerned about our traffic and we need help and we need funding. That's the most important thing.
With the funding, you can't just, it's hard to say, look, we need money for this, money for that, without kind of coming up with more money ourselves.
Right.
Would there be a plan to do things like increase gas tax? Because it is the people that are driving that these roads benefit. So in my mind, to charge the people that are benefiting the most would be to increase gas tax.
Well, I think that's a state issue, and I believe that's something that the state issue will address.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the town Mount Pleasant goes, we do have enough money to do the surveys, to do the engineering, and to do the wetland studies. We've got that in place so that when the money comes from the state, we are ready to go, and we can get this thing turned around and starting to go right away. So yeah, that's exactly right. If they do a state tax gas, it would help the entire state, not to mention just Mount Pleasant.
Another thing that's that my positive perspective concentrates on and is a concern to citizens out there is with all these extra people come excess garbage.
Yeah,
Are there any ways we could increase recycling or promote more recycling to offset some of this excess garbage?
I think that's the way of the future is a green community, and I think that's very important. We have to, our main goal as a government official is to protect and to serve, and if our core services ever get out of whack, then we really need to reevaluate. We need to bring in, we just can't live on houses anymore. Houses and residential property, the taxes we bring in from them do not support the core services such as police, fire, garbage pickup, recycling pickup. So we have to look at more ways to bring in the economic development such as businesses and IT businesses and buildings and stuff like that. If you take a large 5-story building, it brings in just as much tax base as a 150 home neighborhood. So yeah, there are a lot of other ways to look at smart growth and then balance the two together.
Certainly. And then you mentioned balancing things together, and then of course Mount Pleasant is a community on its own, but it's also a community that's part of the Charleston system, and of course when I say other communities being near Mount Pleasant, I mean of course downtown, Daniel Island, and you mentioned with traffic you can't concentrate on one area and expect it to get better and then leave the rest alone. So I mean, when you apply that theory to basically the towns of Daniel Island, downtown, those types of things, wouldn't you think that there'd have to be a way for other towns to transcend the Mount Pleasant traffic?
That's exactly right. Do you know that we have over 25,000 people that travel the bridge, the Arthur Avenel Bridge, every day to go into work? They leave Mount Pleasant and they travel across the bridge. 25,000 people. That's a concern. And then we have 17,000 people come in from other areas into Mount Pleasant to work. So yeah, we have to work with the other counties and the other cities to collaborate the traffic flow so that we won't get bottlenecked in North Charleston and we won't get bottlenecked in downtown Charleston. So it all has to be engineered with people that know exactly how to handle exactly this situation. It all has to tie in together and flow together as well it can be.
Okay, well, great. Well, I'm going to tell you, Mr. Collins, you have me sold.
Well, thank you.
So if I wanted to read more about your campaign and about your things, where would I go and how would I vote?
Thank you very much. The election is November 3rd. I have a website. It's votefornickcollins.com. And on the website you'll find all my issues and questions. And if you have any questions, you can contact me on that website. And there are 12 people running for 4 spots. The change and the difference I have is I am the only council member that's the only council candidate that has served on town council and planning commission together. So that's where you learn the grassroots of the process. I learned the process. I learned about it through being on town council and being planning commission, and that's exactly how I know what is going on, and I have the experience and the leadership ability to get things done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Collins, for joining us, and I'm sure we'll hear more from you in the future. Thank y'all for tuning into My Positive Perspective. Have a great day.
On a sunny day, I feel my thoughts drift away. Only good vibes and good times living in my brain. On a sunny day, catch me lamping in the shade, feeling so fine and so high. Oh, my sunny day, still I hope all my efforts will one day pan out. Love within, you'll never be without. So I roll, feeling strong and so